All right, Raiders fans, it's time to break down what's coming up this week. Forget the usual previews and keys to victory segments you've seen 1,000 times, because today we're taking a slightly different approach. We're not just talking about what could happen, we're talking about what has to happen if the Las Vegas Raiders want to avoid turning Allegiant Stadium into a circus once again. Let's face the facts. This is a critical matchup. 1-4 versus 1-4. And for a lot of fans, losing to the Tennessee Titans, who are widely considered one of the weaker teams in the league, would be nothing short of catastrophic. That kind of loss doesn't just sting. It triggers conversations about trades, player evaluations, and even coaching changes. The stakes are real, and the consequences could ripple far beyond just Week 6. First things first, the Raiders have to run the ball. It's that simple. It's almost frustrating that we even have to say it. The Titans have been a sieve against the run all season, ranking near the bottom of the league in rushing defense. They've given up over 600 yards on the ground, almost dead last, and 8 rushing touchdowns to running backs alone. That's a glaring weakness that has to be exploited. Jenny has been averaging over 6 yards per carry in the last 2 games, and it's not like he hasn't shown he can contribute in the passing game too. But the formula here is straightforward. Hand him the ball, establish the run, and then open up the play action. If the Raiders continue to rely on pistol formations or abandon the run on 2nd and 8, they're going to struggle to sustain drives, and the pressure will continue to fall on Geno Smith in ways that aren't sustainable. Establishing the run doesn't just help move the chains. It forces the defense to respect multiple threats, which can help loosen up coverage and take some pressure off a quarterback who has had his struggles. And yes, facing Jeffrey Simmons will be a huge test for Jordan Meredith, but there are ways to scheme around elite defenders when you're running effectively. Whether it's using misdirection, pulling linemen, or getting creative with blocking schemes, the running game is the foundation. Without it, the offense becomes one-dimensional, predictable, and far easier to defend. Red zone execution is another major concern. Over 38 plays in the red zone, and Jenny has only been handed the ball 9 times? That's ridiculous. If you're running effectively outside the 20-yard line, there's no excuse to abandon your top weapon when it matters most. Instead, we see Chip Kelly turning to a passing-heavy approach in critical moments, and the results have been underwhelming. The Raiders are barely cracking 36% efficiency in the red zone, worse than any season under previous coaches like Josh McDaniels or even what Lug Gatsby managed last year. And with Geno completing under 43% of his red zone passes, the situation becomes even more dire. It's a combination that screams missed opportunity, and if the Raiders want to avoid a circus, this is one of the first areas that demands attention. Turnovers, of course, are the other glaring issue. Geno Smith's interceptions have been costly, and the way he handles them, pouting on the sideline or deflecting responsibility at the podium, doesn't inspire confidence. Leadership matters, and if the quarterback isn't projecting accountability, it affects the locker room. The Raiders need to win the turnover battle, plain and simple. Patrick Graham has stressed this repeatedly. Generating pressure on the quarterback creates opportunities for turnovers, and with a rookie like Cam Ward under center for the Titans, getting after him could create game-changing plays. Their offensive line has allowed 19 sacks this season, near the bottom of the league, and with the Raiders' pass rushers stepping up, there's a real opportunity to disrupt rhythm and force mistakes. Defensively, the Raiders also have to adjust. The secondary is missing key players like Jermaine Pratt, and the linebacking core has holes that opposing offenses can exploit. But the bigger issue is predictability. Cover 3 everywhere, limited blitzing, soft zone coverage allowing 8 to 15-yard completions. It's a formula that needs variation. If the Raiders can create confusion, mix up looks, and get consistent pressure, the Titans' offense could crumble under the weight of mistakes and turnovers. Field position has also been a silent killer this season. Starting drives deep in your own territory, averaging just the 26-yard line, puts constant pressure on the offense and limits scoring opportunities. But by establishing the run, winning turnovers, and executing in the red zone, the Raiders can flip the field, shorten the game, and create better scoring chances. Every yard matters, every play counts, and momentum swings can be decisive. And finally, adjustments during the game. The Raiders have been notoriously bad in the second and third quarters this season. They can start well, script a strong first drive, and then fall into patterns that allow opponents to dominate the middle of the game. Chip Kelly's scripting is solid for the opening, but adjustments mid-game have been weak. Offense, defense, it doesn't matter. The Raiders need to show they can adapt. They need to respond to what the Titans throw at them, recognize weaknesses, and exploit them continuously. Otherwise, even if they start strong, the game slips away and the circus starts again. Now, let's dive into the consequences if the Raiders stumble against the Titans, because make no mistake, a loss here would be seismic. 1-5 is not just a record, it's a statement. 5 straight losses would immediately spark locker room questions, ignite trade chatter, and put coaches under an uncomfortable spotlight. The Raiders would be at a crossroads where inaction isn't an option. Fans and analysts alike would start asking the hard questions. Who stays, who goes, and what changes need to be made to salvage the season? The pressure isn't hypothetical. It's real, and the franchise would have to act decisively to prevent a full-scale collapse. If the Raiders were to lose, one of the first areas under scrutiny would likely be coaching. Chip Kelly has shown flashes of brilliance in scripting first drives, but the inability to adjust in real time has become glaring. Geno Smith's struggles in the red zone aren't entirely on him. Play calling has consistently left him in difficult situations. Patrick Graham has emphasized the importance of pressure and turnovers, yet defensive schemes have often been predictable, allowing soft completions and failing to generate consistent disruption. If this pattern continues, finger-pointing becomes inevitable, and in the NFL, that can quickly lead to personnel changes. Special teams, often overlooked until mistakes are glaring, could also come under fire. Tom McMahon's unit has struggled mightily, and in a loss to a team like the Titans, he could easily be the first scapegoat. Meanwhile, offensive line coaching, despite improvements in recent weeks, would be examined again, especially if run blocking fails to open lanes or protect the quarterback. Trades and roster moves would inevitably follow. The Raiders have assets with value, and a loss here would accelerate conversations about moving players. Jacoby Myers has already requested a trade, and teams are actively calling. Max Crosby, while a cornerstone of the defense, would draw attention from other franchises if the Raiders decide to pivot toward a rebuild. Other players like Dylan Parr, Kayla Rogers, Diary Wilson, and Malcolm Koonce might also see their future questioned if performances continue to falter. Losing to the Titans could mark the point where the team begins to evaluate which players fit into the long-term vision and which are better leveraged for draft picks or future trades. The concept of a rebuild is unavoidable if the team fails here. Evaluating talent, testing depth, and planning for the future becomes more urgent. You can't simply continue running the same schemes with the same personnel while hoping for different results. It's not about giving up on winning games. It's about prioritizing the foundation that will allow the franchise to compete sustainably. That means being willing to bench, trade, or release players who aren't producing at the expected level. Leadership within the locker room would also be tested. Geno Smith, as the quarterback and captain, would need to demonstrate accountability. Deflecting blame or visibly struggling with mistakes can erode team morale. And in a 1-5 scenario, the spotlight on leadership becomes impossible to ignore. Beyond the immediate consequences, a loss here would have ripple effects leading into future matchups. Week 7 pits the Raiders against the Kansas City Chiefs, a game that suddenly transforms from a standard divisional clash into a potential referendum on the team's direction. Momentum is critical in the NFL, and consecutive losses, especially to perceived weaker opponents, can undermine confidence on both sides of the ball. The pressure on coaching staff and players would be immense, and the narrative around the team would shift from hopeful contender to struggling franchise, demanding action and accountability. This situation also emphasizes the importance of execution in every facet of the game. Establishing the run, protecting the quarterback, converting the red zone, generating turnovers, and making mid-game adjustments aren't just nice-to-have elements. They're essential. Failures in any of these areas can snowball quickly, and a loss against a team like the Titans would magnify every flaw. Raiders fans know how quickly expectations can shift. One disappointing game can redefine the season, and Week 6 has the potential to do exactly that. Ultimately, the Raiders are at a moment where preparation, discipline, and execution must converge. There's no room for mistakes, and there's no room for complacency. The team's future in the short term depends on how they approach this matchup and how they respond to adversity on the field. Every run play, every defensive adjustment, every red zone decision carries weight, and the margin for error is razor thin. Avoiding the circus isn't just about winning a game. It's about preserving credibility, protecting morale, and keeping the team competitive while still evaluating what needs to be fixed for the long term. The narrative going forward will hinge on one game. 1-4 versus 1-4 may look like a simple matchup on paper, but the implications are enormous. Winning this game isn't optional. It's necessary to maintain stability and confidence in the organization. The Raiders have the talent to execute. The coaching staff has the knowledge, and the fans are hungry for a performance that reflects the team's potential. If everything comes together, it's an opportunity to stop the downward spiral, regain momentum, and show that despite the challenges, Las Vegas is still very much in the fight. Looking at the bigger picture, the implications of this game extend beyond the immediate score. A loss would push the Raiders to 1-5, creating pressure for trades, personnel decisions, and possibly even coaching changes. There's no sugarcoating it. Losing to a team like the Titans would accelerate talks about a rebuild. Some of the team's most valuable assets could be on the trade block, and evaluations of the roster would have to be immediate and thorough. It's not just about avoiding embarrassment. It's about setting up a foundation for the future. This game is a litmus test for the Raiders' ability to take stock of where they are, identify weaknesses, and begin implementing the changes necessary to compete consistently at a high level. Ultimately, this matchup against Tennessee is a defining moment. It's an opportunity to demonstrate that the Raiders are more than their record, that they can establish dominance in the trenches, limit mistakes, and execute in critical moments. But it's also a litmus test. How the team responds will dictate the level of urgency in the locker room, whether personnel changes are considered, and whether the coaching staff earns the confidence of both players and fans moving forward. The stakes are high, and the Raiders must rise to meet them if they hope to maintain credibility and momentum for the remainder of the season. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on our Las Vegas Raiders. And don't be shy. Drop your thoughts on the news in the comments below. Las Vegas is buzzing like never before. Whispers on the Strip have turned into full-blown excitement after what some insiders are calling one of the most shocking moves of the NFL offseason. The Raiders have reportedly struck a deal with superstar running back Derrick Henry. If true, this would mark a seismic shift not only for the Raiders roster, but for the entire AFC landscape. Fans are already flocking to social media, trading speculations, memes, and outright celebrations, as the thought of Henry donning the silver and black ignites dreams of unstoppable rushing attacks and highlight reel touchdowns. Sources close to the team hint that negotiations have been intense, with the Raiders reportedly pulling out all the stops to lure the Titan into the desert. While no official confirmation has been made, the rumor has spread like wildfire. Fans outside Allegiant Stadium are already imagining a lineup featuring Henry barreling through defenses, combined with the Raiders' evolving offensive scheme. Las Vegas sportsbooks have reportedly seen unusual betting spikes, with bets on the Raiders' success next season climbing as speculation about the Henry acquisition grows. The timing couldn't be more tantalizing. After a few seasons of rebuilding and near misses, the Raiders appear ready to make a statement. Derrick Henry, known for his punishing runs and rare combination of size and speed, could be exactly the spark the team needs to compete at the highest level. Conversations among analysts and commentators are heating up, with many debating how Henry's presence might shift divisional power dynamics. Could this be the moment the Raiders finally break through in the AFC West? Only time will tell, but for now, the mere prospect has turned Las Vegas into a citywide frenzy of anticipation and speculation. Whether it's fact or fiction, The rumor itself has already transformed the sports landscape. Fans, insiders, and rival teams alike are watching closely, eager to see if the Raiders can truly pull off the shocker of the offseason. One thing is certain. If Derrick Henry does land in Las Vegas, the NFL's Desert City will never be the same again. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay updated with exclusive news about our Las Vegas Raiders, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. We can't wait to hear your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next video.